Here's the game. Danny 21 starts with d4. Here, let's play knight f6. e3. Okay, I'm going to go with d5. So this could be a Colle system. I can play c5 here, I believe. Just defends. Okay. So yeah, this is a Colle system. And he plays with a4. It's interesting. So he can push on with a5. Let's see, what will happen if I play b6 right now? He's got the check, and I don't like that. So if he plays a5, I'll play a6 and just block it. Even though it may cost me... Okay, so he's gaining a tempo with his pawn, gaining space on the queen side, I should say. But losing time. Okay, so now I will block with a6. Then castle. Yeah, I think castling. I can play with e5, e4, I think, here in this position. And yeah, that looks good to me. It threatens a fork, so he's got to respond in some way. This is not the normal way of playing the Colle system. Normally, players with playing the Colle system try to get a central break in with e4 at some point and open up for a kingside attack. This queenside expansion is unusual. I don't know if it's bad though, but we can check that out. It doesn't seem effective to me at first glance. He's not castling yet. Let's go ahead and play bishop g4. I can come back to g6 if he starts to kick it. Yeah, okay, so now he's castled. So when he does that, I can play e4 here, gain space on the king side and set up for a classic what's that called? Greek sacrifice. So I can't play it immediately because the bishop and the queen are here. Well, it's good to get rid of that bishop anyway. So now if I check, I need to play knight to g4. If I play bishop takes h2 check and he takes, I need knight to h4 check to follow up and then bring the queen in with tempo. That's the idea of that attack. And I can't play h4. I mean, I can't play knight g4. That's covered by the queen. Let's just bring a rook in. I could think of a move like h4, but he can, or h5 rather, supporting knight g4, but he could simply play h3 and block it, and it's not bad for him. Maybe I can get a rook into the game here. Rook here, knight to f3, rook to h4, and I'm threatening on rook to h5. I'm threatening on I don't know. It's a bit crazy looking, honestly, but I don't see anything particularly wrong with it. The bishop and the rook are coordinating on the h2 square when I play rook h5, and also I can drop the bishop back to c2 and play queen to, drop the bishop back to c7 and play queen to, okay, well this is a tempo move, I think. So let's go ahead and play that. He can't play knight f6. I don't know what I was thinking there. Okay, he goes that way. So then I have, I can lift my queen up here. Threaten things like queen h3 and knight g4. Ah, I see. He takes my knight that way. I can still threaten this. What is he going to do about it? Queen h3. Well, I have time. Let's think. Queen h3. Threatening queen takes h2 mate. He can't defend that. Well, it loses the knight to defend that. He could push the pawn forward. That defends it. Well, then I could take his bishop, I guess, and move my king out of the way. Let's play this and see how he reacts. Pawn to f3. Or, oh, bishop there. Did not think of that. But does that actually work? This is a neat little tactic. If he takes it, he gets mated anyway because the bishop is still looking at the h2 square when he takes the rook. And I'm still threatening queen takes h2. So it looks like his proposed defense is not adequate here. Ah, yeah, so he still had the, that right, that's right, he still had that f3 move, or f4 in this case. So I thought I could take en passant. It kind of weakens his king side. And then if he takes back with the knight, I'll just have to drop my rook back. He's got to take instead of taking my rook, because of the threat of mate, and also because I'm threatening, oh no, because I'm threatening his queen. There is no mate threat because his queen is there. Okay, so where do I drop back to? All the way to h6, I guess. And bring the other rook over. Okay, so he uses his knight to start harassing me. A good plan. So he's looking at this he's looking at the f7 square. So where should I go with the queen? If I go here, he probably has to take. Then when he takes the pawn, he'll be hitting my bishop. But my bishop is also hitting one of his pawns. So how does this work out? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Somehow he has emerged without losing material. And it's just bishop versus knight here. Let's see. So it's better if I take with the rook, isn't it? And I get a passed c-pawn that I can push forward and defend my bishop with. He's got a passed, he has a passed e-pawn. And so let's try and bring that under control and also harass his knight a bit here. Yeah, I thought he might go there, so go here. And I thought he might go there too, so I go here. All right, I get this pawn. What's he attacking? He's attacking my bishop. So I can take back with the pawn or the rook. guess the pawn is correct. So it's a double rook endgame, 2 rooks for each side, and I have an extra pawn. And he's used hardly any time. Okay, let's see if I can grab this other pawn here. Ah, that's his idea. Okay, if he wants to take that, he will be in trouble, I think. So let's think about this. I push, he takes. I put my rook here so that I am threatening to come to the second rank. He blocks, or the back rank, he blocks. Bring my rook down, or he pushes, oh, he has to move his rook out of the way. I push my pawn forward, he pushes, I play the check. I think this is good for me. Well, we'll see how it plays out. Yeah, so he goes there first. Okay, I'll go here. So this was my idea, just to go to this square and just force my pawn through. It wasn't the exact sequence that I had in mind, but it's the same idea. I think the tempos work out the same. He needs to get the rook out from behind the pawn and push it forward 2 squares, whereas I go here, take, I can take from behind even over here if he doesn't take, and if he does take, I'll have a pawn here and a rook coming in with check. I think this is winning. Let's see if he can find a way out. He was pretty inventive so far. Just played too fast in the first part of the game. But now that he's thinking, I have to watch out. Let's see, I can do it this way too. I can do the check first and then come here with check. And then he takes, I take back. Oh, then he can put his rook behind the pawn. Yeah, so that's not as good. Aha, he puts his rook behind the pawn. Okay. That's pretty interesting. So if I take, he takes, then I put my rook here. And I have my rook behind the pawn, but his king is close. I think, well, I think I have to go for this. I think he did find a pretty good solution there. And then I'll start bringing my king over. And we'll start pushing these pawns forward. This is a winning endgame for me if he takes that pawn. And if he moves his rook out of the way, I will start pushing it forward, although he can move his rook with check. I will start to bring my king over here. My king is close enough to these kingside pawns to protect them from his rook, so I don't think he can do a lot of damage. Here, let's just bring these over. Now let's bring my king up. So, the advantage of having your rook behind the pawn. Okay, I think it's best if I get the pawn as far away from his king as possible to give my king room to step forward. Maybe he can draw this, because he can take, I have to take back, and then he can bring his king over. How do I ever make progress after that? Yeah, it looks like he found that idea. So I just wanted to get my king one step closer here. Okay, so let's bring my rook up. Let's see if he can maintain this position. Yeah, so I can check here, drive his king back. Okay, this is interesting. So I can walk over to defend my rook. So what's he going to do? He can't move his pawn. If he moves his rook, I can move the pawn forward. If he moves his king, I can step in and defend my pawn with the king. And my rook is still in time to come over and cut his king off. So I think maybe I've got something here. He moved his king there. Okay, so let's step forward one step. I did gain a little something there. Let's attack his rook. So it's an important example, I guess, of how you have to use Zugzwang to make progress. So Zugzwang is forcing your opponent to move when he doesn't want to. Well, that's one way of interpreting it anyway. Zugzwang, I think it literally means compulsion to move. And this should be a win. I will claim a victory. That is definitely a victory. Okay, interesting game. I'll upload this and see you guys later. Bye.